Hello everybody, welcome back to the Tiny Room. Happy Mother's Day. I am your co-host Michael, and I am here with a man who has been described as some mother's son. It's Benjamin.
Hello! I am a mother's son.
You're a son of a mother.
Son of a mother. Son of a mother. I've never understood son of a gun. It's quite an odd expression. It's like, I don't get it. But yeah, most people are sons of mothers. Did you know that, Michael?
Yes. Hold on, I'm trying to think of a good joke about son of a gun. I've got nothing. Ben, I've got nothing. I don't even have a pun.
Damn it. What is the point in doing a podcast when your co-host can't even make a pun on son of a gun? Oh, I made that rhyme. Oh,
Rhymes are the weakest form of wit. Benjamin. Shut up for a second. Ben, have you seen that Black Panther has passed 1 billion at the box office?
It's so much money. It has also been confirmed for a sequel.
Oh, has it?
The sequel has been confirmed as of yesterday. Time of recording is the 11th of March, so it was confirmed on the 10th. Mother's Day. We could have. Sorry. Yeah, anyone who's smart would have figured that out. But for those of us who are a bit more Benish, today is the 11th of March, so
Ben,
yesterday.
You want to be careful with that. I don't think you want to give at podcast wanker the term Benish to throw around.
Oh dear, we're done. Okay.
Ben, is it International Mother's Day or is it just Ireland and the UK Mother's Day?
Italian people don't seem to celebrate Mother's Day. I haven't
seen
any.
Every day is Mamma's Day in Italia.
No, every day is Son's Day in Italy.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I tell you what they are super hyped for though is Bloody Paddy's Day.
Oh really?
Every single pub within a 2-mile radius in Florence. You see, I think it's because of the large amount of Americans who are here. But they are all hyped for St. Patty's Day.
Benjamin, do you have your Kiss Me I'm Irish t-shirt ready?
I don't. I just walk around telling people I'm Irish.
Kiss Me I'm Ben t-shirt.
I staple my passport to my forehead and just wander around.
Oh, very good.
Anyway, 1 billion for Black Panther. Sequel confirmed. Wonderful news.
Good.
It's pretty solid stuff all around.
You still haven't seen it, I assume?
I haven't. I did try again, but failed again. I think, not good, but yeah. Anyway, I really want to see it as well. It looks so goddamn good.
It's pretty good, Ben.
Yeah, I know.
I think you'd like it.
I probably would.
And his mother is in it.
Sorry, who? There are mothers in it. Oh, wonderful.
Black Panther's mother is an important character. So, thematically
that's always
appropriate.
Good news. It's always
Ben,
good news.
have you seen the comings and goings of Avengers this week?
No, I haven't.
So we should probably warn people before we do this. We're getting into like that last month and a half of pre-movie release, and spoilers are starting to creep out. Spoilers are creeping out on the backs of toy packets, on press releases, on Kevin Feige talking to people. So I mean, we've a lot of information. For example, we know that spooky space planet where the battle happens is Thanos' homeworld of Titan.
Oh, it's Titan.
Yeah,
okay,
it's been
really
destroyed
actually
by something Thanos couldn't stop.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
that
makes Thanos a bit tragic.
That's going to be interesting. We're going to Shakespeare him. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I think they've got Kenneth Branagh.
That's weird. Sorry. Oh fuck no.
They haven't got Kenneth Branagh. They haven't got Kenneth Branagh. Then don't worry.
Otherwise, we'll have, yea, verily, 'tis rare to find humour within destroying of one's homeworld. However, this does bring a grin to one's visage.
That's very good, Ben. That was very, very well done, considering it was off the cuff.
Yeah, but that'd be bloody grim, wouldn't it? That'd be awful to hear bloody Josh Brolin give that a go for about 20 minutes.
What else?
Sorry, we should explain why that's unusual. In the comic continuity, Thanos is the one that destroys his home planet.
Well, it still might be.
Maybe it'll be a big reveal. It's like, I did it. And it'll be like, ooh. Oh.
You're a real bad egg.
Anyway, you're a real bad egg, Thanos.
Also, I think it was Kevin Feige has said that despite, like, as we said last week, and as basically everyone has speculated, that a lot of people are going to die in Infinity War, and then they're going to get time gemmed, and everyone's going to be fine.
Oh, fuck.
But Kevin Feige has said that everyone who dies is staying dead.
I hate MacGuffining. I dislike it.
Well, I mean, you can't really dislike MacGuffining, Ben, and then go see The Hunt for the Six MacGuffins, which this is essentially what this film is.
Fair enough. This whole series has been The Hunt for the Six MacGuffins.
Yeah, Thanos and The Hunt for the Six MacGuffins.
Fuck's sake. That's amazing. Okay, any other... So, yeah, how do you feel about all this? I don't like it when this happens. I don't like it when we see everything and we have to put up with everything. I just don't like it.
Look, Ben, we're in the podcast game, so that unfortunately means we kind of have to know these things.
No, but to be fair, our format at this point is Michael knowing things and Ben being very slow. In fairness, but yeah, I get what you mean.
Ben, did you see? I know we're not a toy podcast, and I keep bringing it back to toys. But did you see Marvel Legends have announced, and I think almost are about to release, a life-size Infinity Gauntlet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I actually did see that. And I thought that is the most ridiculous, cool thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely get one in a tiny room.
Are you getting it? You're getting a Thanos Gauntlet.
Yeah, it's going to go here in the. Oh yeah, for sure, it's going to go here in the display case.
How much is it?
$100.
Oh, that's not actually that bad. I was expecting something much heftier.
Oh, $100 for a big plastic glove. That's not actually that bad.
Oh, is it plastic?
Hashtag first world problems. Of course it's plastic.
No, sorry. I didn't know it was plastic. All right, fair enough. Yeah, very first world. But we are first world. We are first world buddies. So yeah, let's move along with that.
Benjamin, is there any other news?
So kind of big news. You and I, Michael, are long-term fans of a very, very dear and heartfelt series that started in 1988. What series would that be, Michael?
I genuinely have no idea.
Sandman, Michael.
Oh,
started in 1998.
Comic book series. Sorry.
With very gentle Englishman Neil Gaiman, who's Neil Gaiman or Neil Gaiman. Depending on how you like to say it. Yeah, it's coming back.
Sandman's coming back.
It's coming back too. He's bringing the universe back completely. He has a brand new team of writers. There's a very interesting video where he gives the launch. And it's just him in a very kind of Sandman setting. It's a little garden. And he's just kind of doing that thing that Neil Gaiman does where he talks about how lucky he was to be the creator of Sandman in that very nice Neil Gaiman cheerful cup of tea cadence.
Is he wearing a black jacket?
He is. It's a long black jacket because he's always found that black is a soothing colour. He's Neil Gaiman. I created Sandman. I reshaped comic books, but let's not worry about that now. I love Neil Gaiman. He's just so unassuming.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman's great. I really like his short stories as well, Ben. Give his short stories a read, Ben.
Fragile Things is an amazing compilation, and I have read all of his short stories. I didn't like Trigger Warnings as much as I liked Fragile Things or Smoke and Mirrors.
Yeah, but you're a kind of anti-social justice warrior, that's probably why.
No. Jesus. Fucking hell.
All right, Jordan Peterson of podcasts. Take it easy.
You'll bring... Oh, I think Jordan Peterson has a podcast.
He probably does.
I don't mind Jordan Peterson. He's a bit
Jordan Peterson would hate this podcast.
He would hate this podcast so much.
Oh, brilliant.
He would not be our friend. Yeah, fair enough. But, we can't win them all, Michael. We can't win them all.
Or even most.
Or even most, yeah. Jesus.
Ben, I'm in two minds about this Sandman coming back thing. I'm not generally a big fan of when things come back.
Well, okay, so it's going to be slightly interesting. First of all,
interesting.
I have to qualify all my statements because every time I do something like that, you go, "That's what you think."
I know, that's what I have to put up with. Okay, go on.
That's what I have to put up with. But it's slightly different. The original dream, Morpheus, is staying dead. This has been drilled into the ground by Neil Gaiman. There's no way he's coming back and doing it if Morpheus doesn't stay dead. So that's the first thing. Okay. So this will center around Daniel.
Daniel. Nobody likes Daniel.
But I think the reason that he featured in the Dark Knight Metal series was to test the waters.
Ben, I didn't know he was in the Dark Knight Metal series.
Yeah, he's the one that warns Batman that Barbatos is coming or whatever. Anyway, that was to test the water, I think, and now they're going to bring it back officially. Anyway, this is slightly more interesting. It's going to be Neil Gaiman writing a central Sandman story. And then he has 4 writers that are going to take different characters from the Sandman universe. And they're going to write their own arcs. And then they have a brand new series of artists to take care of each new arc. So Lucifer is getting his own series again.
From TV.
Yeah, from TV. He's getting his own series again. I think Neil Gaiman and Peter Carey, who took over the Lucifer character, have completely distanced themselves from the TV series. They want nothing to do with it. And the comics really reflect that. They have nothing to do with the series.
The series is very TV, isn't it? It's very generic plot of the week.
Plot of the week, procedural crap. And then there's going to be a new House of Mystery.
Very good.
For those of you that don't know, DC has 2 houses. There's a House of Mystery, and then there's the House of, I think it's Questions. Okay. But this one is going to introduce the House of Whispers, which is a different thing. The houses of etc. Are kind of like weird interdimensional or mystical houses that pop in and out of time. And they used to be used in the 70s by DC to write little horror short series.
Like Tales from the Crypt?
Yeah, kind of a similar thing like that. So whenever one of the houses of mystery popped up, you knew stuff was going to get fucking weird. But they used to interject them into their superhero storylines, which was kind of cool. So they would have Batman turn down Crime Alley, and he would find a door open at the end of Crime Alley, and it turns out it was the House of Mystery. It was twisted and macabre. But this was during the 70s.
That's a very Sandman concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite Sandman short stories, where the guy turns down an alley he's never seen before and ends up in the city's dream.
Yeah. It's a classic kind of, classic little trope to run around with. So anyway, that's the Sandman thing. It actually looks quite interesting because I think, again, Neil Gaiman.
That's your opinion, Ben.
Oh God!
Gotcha.
It's my own fault. I blame myself. I think it's interesting because Neil Gaiman is so adamant that we're not going back. We're not rebooting here. We're not bringing Dream back. Like he's very much sticking to his guns on this one. And he quite often, really grinds and makes sure that he keeps his own creative rights. And Vertigo can't really fuck with him because he's bloody Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman.
This is his return to comics. He's been out of the comic game for a long, long time. But yeah, the 4 series that he's going to launch are: one is going to be the House of Whispers. One is going to focus on Lucian, the librarian. Mm-hmm. One is going to focus on the Books of Magic, which is the really interesting mini-series he did for Vertigo in the 90s, which a lot of people think J.K. Rowling stole for Harry Potter. But we'll get into that on a different podcast. We don't have time for that today. And then I can't remember what the 4th one is, but it's Sandman universe related. Oh, Lucifer. Those are the 4.
You just said that, remember?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. I have a short-term memory. Anyway, Michael, I'm really excited to read it. It could be crap. Generally, comics that try to cash in on this kind of thing are, and I have very little time for them. But sure, anyway, go on. Give us some other news there. Anything else?
Ben, well, look, Ben, I've been reading Avengers No Surrender. Have you read Avengers No Surrender?
I think we both know that I haven't, but thank you.
Okay. You know what's interesting about it is it's weekly.
Oh, that's quite taxing.
Yeah, well, I assume it was all written before they even started.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It was all written and illustrated before they even started. But I'm really enjoying a weekly comic, Ben. I know it's probably very difficult for them to do, but it's great.
Really? That's good news.
Well, the comic itself is pretty standard, to be honest. It's the Black Order, who you'll be familiar with from Thanos.
From the old Thanos.
The Lethal Legion have been sent to Earth to engage in a game which could destroy the Earth and the usual. Sorry,
could you just go through the second name for the group there?
The Lethal Legion.
The Lethal... That's a bit silly. Anyway, go on. Keep going.
But it's full of lots of there's a new character. They've played the same game again. They have a new character called Valerie Vector, a.k.a. Voyager.
Valerie Vector, a.k.a. Voyager.
And she has quantum powers. And she is along the lines of your Marvel Sentry and your Blue Marvel. She's the latest in the line of characters who was instrumental in founding the Marvel Universe. She was one of the founding Avengers, but then was forgotten.
Oh, here we go.
And now they've inserted her back in. I think in this case, unlike Sentry and Blue Marvel and some of the other times this has happened, she is going to turn out to be a fake.
Oh, good. That'd be nice.
So she's part of the problem by the looks of things. Although it might be unrelated. Look, it's a decent little comic. It's a classic. Like, if you wanted to get kids into comics, it would be a decent place to start. Not really young kids, because it's a little bit violent.
I know.
But go on.
Comic books haven't been for kids for a long time, Michael.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But this is the type of thing. When I started reading comics, this is the kind of thing I would have wanted.
Yeah, good,
it's essentially a prolonged battle over some things with a bit of mystery and weekly.
So it's got nostalgia appeal for the elder among us, and it's got like a nice hook for the younger.
Exactly, and also it brought the Black Legion back in, so everyone knows who they are when they come out in the cinemas. I'm
sorry, was it the Black Order or the Lethal Legion?
Or the Black Legion.
What's the Black Legion? Oh, for the
Black Legion is a Warhammer thing, actually.
Oh, okay. I was watching Bizarre. For some reason, I ended up down a YouTube spiral at the weekend, and I ended up watching trailers for Warhammer games.
Ben, look, we're going to do a podcast episode on this eventually, but the Warhammer games, the bloody trailers are great. The best thing about Warhammer is its setting, its universe.
Yeah, okay, the lore.
Warhammer, not even the lore, the setting.
Okay.
Warhammer isn't a story, it's a setting. Were you watching Warhammer Future Warhammer 40,000, or Warhammer Fantasy?
40k, I think was the majority.
I mean, 40k, it's so ripe for a CG intro scene to a game.
Yeah, to be fair, they're pretty good trailers. The
games themselves, Ben, look, I know you're not really a gamer, but
I'm not.
I'll steer you down the right path for which games are good and which are just kind of passable.
Sure.
We'll have that conversation in another episode. But,
Excellent.
man, it would be... Warhammer 40,000 is the universe I would most like to live in, but also would really hate to live in. Because it's horrible, but it's vast and it's exciting and it's varied and it's a great universe.
That's interesting. Most like to live in, but really not.
It's awful. It would be an awful place to live, but it would be an awful place to live unless you were like in the 0.0001% of the luckiest people who have a life of adventure and excitement, and everything else is grim and horrible and warty.
Well, it's just a big totalitarian thing, isn't it?
Well, that's the human empire. There's all sorts of other things going on. There's it's so vast. It's a galaxy spanning universe. With 40 years of development, 30 odd, but you could live on basically a paradise planet, far away from the war, or you could live in the sumps of a 2-kilometer high city where you've never even seen sunlight, and you live and die without ever seeing the sun. It's great universe. Anyway, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, sorry. Moving on from Warhammer. What's next, Michael? What's next?
Ben.
Yes.
Did you see a Red Sparrow?
No, I think we can just stop asking if we've seen things. I think.
So you're more the
podcast time.
At this stage, you're more the paper guy.
Yeah, I'm the paper guy. Oh, that's so shit. Yes, I'm the paper guy.
Look, Ben, I saw Red Sparrow there, as you know. I did a video.
You did. It was very good, Michael. I was very proud of you. It's
on the channel. It has editing in it. Took me forever. I hate editing.
You don't hate editing, Michael.
I do. No, here's the thing, though, Ben. I edited that whole video with Windows Movie Maker.
Why the fuck do you use Windows Movie Maker?
Because I know how.
We have, by the way, the people who listen to the podcast should know we actually have a full subscription to Adobe that Michael is welcome to use whenever he wants.
Look, Ben, I'm scared of the
new. He won't fucking do it.
I'm scared of the new. I'm like a rat.
We have Premiere Pro. We have After Effects. We have Audible. We have everything.
The thing I was very disappointed with in Windows Movie Maker is you can't do exciting text like you can in all those other programs.
Can't. You can't edit anything properly with Windows Movie Maker. Windows Movie Maker is so successful that it's bloody stopped. They've removed it from future packages.
I know. It was actually pretty hard to get a copy, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say it was. But anyway, look, the downside to Adobe is that it takes quite a while to render, and they're huge file sizes when they're done, because it's quality. It's
quality of book. It's quality. Never mind. Look, Ben, Red Sparrow is good. I enjoyed Red Sparrow, to be honest with you.
Is it? Is it quite a good film?
Look, as we said in the video, it's not a Black Widow film, for sure. 110,000%.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's an enjoyable film. It's not a great film.
Okay,
it's an enjoyable film as long as you don't mind really gruesome death and torture and horrible sex things.
I think we all know that. That's not true. I quite enjoy all those
horrible
things.
Sex things.
Yeah, horrible sex things are pretty much my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Actually, I've done some horrible sex things with bread and butter. But that's
oh no!
Oh,
my lunch. To quote pop culture, lunch ruined.
Lunch ruined. What's that from?
I don't know. I think maybe it was just me. Maybe I just invented it.
Maybe you just invented it. Actually, speaking of weird and disgusting sex things, do you know what I did this week? Can
I say it on the podcast?
No, but I went and I rewatched The Shape of Water.
Yes.
But this time I rewatched it with a group of normal people that don't give a fuck about tropes or symbolism, a group of norms, and don't really care about pop culture. And my God, that film is fucking weird when you watch it with normal people. It's so uncomfortable to watch with normal people who are just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. There's a lot of sex in it, Ben. There's a lot of sexing of a weird thing.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I should watch films with normal people more often.
Is Shape of Water the only film that's watchable in Italy at the moment?
No, I went to see it at there was like a party thing, and it was just kind of like hanging out, and you went
to a party.
It was like a viewing party.
You went to a party and watched The Shape of Water.
Don't overthink it. It wasn't a party. It was a get together, a hangout.
Was it? Oh, is this because it was Oscar season?
Possibly. I don't really know. I just got an invite. But yeah, anyway, it was fun to watch a weird film with normal people and not enjoy the tropes or a thing. It was very interesting. Anyway, sorry. Anything else in news, Michael?
Well, Ben, yes and no news. Wait, no, you have news, I think. Aren't you going to tell me about Stranger Things?
Oh yeah. So, as you know, Michael, I struggle with Stranger Things occasionally.
You do.
It's very good, but I don't know if it's as good as everybody goes on about.
Right.
Anyway, interestingly, which has nothing to do with the quality of the program,
that's your opinion,
the Duffer Brothers are getting a bit of a backlash.
I'm going to interrupt you there for a second.
Yeah.
Is Duffer their real name?
The Duffer Brothers?
Yeah.
I think so. No, is it not the Duffer Brothers?
Okay. I don't know. That's certainly what they go by. I'm wondering, is it their real name or is it a nom de plume?
I would imagine it's a nom de plume. Given that they only give that as the thing, I would say it's probably a nom de plume. But anyway,
I've never heard of like Joe and John Duffer.
Joe and John Duffer. Two good old boys from the Alabama South, always getting into trouble. Sorry, don't know why my mind went there. That was weird. Anyway, they're getting a bit of a backlash for mental abuse and bullying on set.
Oh,
one of their key grips, a woman who does a lot of the cinematography for them, has resigned. She's quite well respected in the industry. And she's resigned, and she resigned using an Instagram post about how it was an unhealthy work environment, how she watched hundreds of women kind of be verbally abused and bullied on set. by two men that had a lot of power. She didn't name them initially. And then someone wrote underneath that in a comment, they said, are you talking about the Duffer Brothers? And she kind of threw caution to the wind, said, yes, I am. I'm directly referencing the Duffer Brothers. And a couple of other women have come forward in the meantime saying they have had horrendous experiences on set with the Duffer Brothers. Now, it should be noted that it's not usually actresses. It's it's the behind the scenes people. So your grips, your sound technicians, your editors.
And is it women in particular, or are they just arseholes to work with?
It seems to be women in particular.
Lads.
It seems to be women in particular for some reason. They're just bad eggs, I guess. Well, now again, sorry, because here at the podcast, we'd like to say allegedly.
Trial by internet, Ben. We're against it.
Yeah, we are against it. We here at Michael and Benjamin's podcast would like to say that we're against any form of abuse or harassment against women. Before we even confirm it, but we will always say allegedly, just in case. So that's what we do. But yeah, I thought it was quite interesting. It's kind of a backlash of not a backlash, it's a knock-on from the Me Too movement. And I think it's quite interesting because so many people are quite respectful of how they portray female characters. I think 11 is kind of like a child, youth kind of icon for her kind of interesting portrayal of a tough little cookie. And I think it's kind of more interesting that the two bad eggs are directing them. So we'll see what happens there. See how
that pans out, Benjamin.
But I'd also be quite nervous of any two directors that are verbally abusive who work with children a lot. It makes me feel quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'd like to see how this pans out. I think a lot of directors are bad eggs. I mean, famous bad egg Stanley Kubrick was never particularly accused of being difficult to women, as far as I know. He's just a difficult person.
By nature.
He was an auteur.
Yeah. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
I've always kind of found that auteur thing to be quite annoying as a concept, because if you think films are made by one director who, you're wrong.
You've misunderstood films.
You've misunderstood films.
You know what they say about speculation? When you speculate, you make a spec out. No, that's assume.
You got it wrong. It's all right. We'll come back next week and try again. It's okay.
Yeah. Benjamin, speaking of tough lady cookies.
Tough lady cookies?
On the Netflix.
Yes.
Have you seen Jessica Jones?
Would you like to guess my answer?
Yes!
No.
No, of course you haven't.
Of course
Do you have Netflix, Ben?
I just have shitty internet, Michael. I have Netflix, but I have shitty internet that doesn't really let me watch it. I am going to fix that very, 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 very soon. But I have shitty internet right now. It's a miracle we're even doing the podcast, to be honest.
It's a Christmas miracle.
I was so bloody nervous setting it up today because my internet is terrible. But no, I haven't seen it, Michael. I hear it's very fucking good.
Well, Ben, I've seen a good chunk of it.
Yes.
It's slow to start. Let's be honest.
The original series was similarly so, no?
Well, all Netflix. I mean, you could say my biggest critique of all the Netflix shows is they're not just slow to start; they're just flat out slow.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
And you could say that's again the biggest criticism of this. But I think that Kristen Ritter's Jessica Jones character lady is now my favorite Marvel character.
I think she was always one of mine.
Yeah, she's always been in the top few, but she's bloody great.
She's gone right up there.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I love how, while I was watching the episodes, every time she uses her super abilities, 90% of the times it's for super breaking and entering. And it's fantastic. Every time she casually breaks a lock to break in somewhere, I laugh out loud. Or every time she leaps over a fence or snaps a door handle, it's just fantastic. It's such a great use of... let's be honest, what she has is relatively low-level superpowers.
Yeah, she's
strong and fast.
She's got something going on, but we don't know what it is.
Oh well, Ben, you've stumbled upon the plot of this season.
I've not seen the series, so I don't know. Okay.
And speaking of David Tennant, which you've just done,
yeah, I kind of did.
It does kind of suffer from having a less compelling villain. It's a mystery villain for most of the series, really.
How do you follow up David Tennant, though? Like that, I genuinely think that David Tennant is one of the best MCU villains. Not in terms of like great comic book characters or anything like that. I've never seen someone I hated. So I've never seen a character that made my skin crawl quite as much as David Tennant did in Jessica Jones. He is just vile. He does this amazing job. Like, he's evil and twisted and of course British. But he's just great. I think he's an amazing.
I hate Logan from Veronica Mars that much, but he's not the villain. He's a love interest.
I've never watched Veronica Mars. Sorry.
The guy who played Logan also now plays the leader of the zombie army in iZombie. I've forgotten his name.
Oh, I know him. He has the big forehead. And the guy
with the forehead. You know the guy with the forehead and the disproportionately muscular body? I really hate that guy. I don't know what it is about him. He just really rubs me the wrong way. Anyway.
Yeah, go on.
One of the best moments in the whole first series, or the whole second series of Jessica Jones, is when she's having a nightmare and everything's getting a bit panicky and terrifying, and things gradually take on a purple hue. And then you're like, things are about to get real. Oh, here we go.
Nice.
And then, as it turns out, it doesn't get real. But it just shows you, it's kind of a... I see what they're doing by having the hint, the kind of bits of him lingering. But in a way, it makes you miss him even more. But I don't think... Jessica Jones is such a good character. She doesn't need Kilgrave to survive, to keep going as a character.
I think she's pretty great on her own 2 feet. I think she's quite something. It's funny because before Jessica Jones, I had always enjoyed Kirsten Ritter, but I didn't really care all that much. And then once, wait, hang on.
I've got a cramp. I was trying not to make a big deal of it. I got a huge cramp in my leg.
I was just looking at the screen there, listening. And for whatever reason, like Mick rolled backwards and like dropped below.
I was trying to keep it quiet. My hamstring cramped. I was on my feet a lot yesterday, Ben. That was very painful.
Oh, well, here's to hoping you fix your cramp. Anyway, coming back to the wonderful Kirsten Ritter, I wasn't really all that enamored with her initially, and after watching her in a couple of things, because she's kind of slowly become leading lady material. She wasn't always. Yeah. She was a bit rom-com actor for a long time.
Well, she had her own rom-com series, or her own sitcom.
Yeah, but see, that was the start of her kind of leading lady credentials. She was Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
I think that show was officially called Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23.
Oh, okay.
I think it got edited to be.
Oh, okay.
I think the original title was a bit more risque.
Yeah,
I might be wrong on that.
It was quite an interesting series. It was quite an interesting series.
I like that series. I think she's very good. She kind of looks a bit like a sexy Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I find it hard not to see Michael Jackson every now and then. I don't think it's even Kristen Ritter.
Don't ruin Jessica Jones for me. Don't do
I think it's not Kristen Ritter. It's Jessica Jones who looks a bit like a sexy Michael Jackson.
It's the jet black hair and
pale skin, like
super pale skin, and her nose is quite upturned.
Yeah, she has a little pointy nose as well.
She has a little pointy nose. But anyway, would you recommend that I go and watch it, Michael?
Of course I would, Ben. It's very good. It's very enjoyable.
I'll do my best.
Again, too long. All of the Marvel shows would benefit. Although even we've always said we prefer a tight 8 or a tight 10.
We do like a tight 10.
Even when Defenders was 8, they still managed to drag it out and make nothing happen in the first 4. So I think it's a style choice or a writing choice that's the issue, rather than how long the bloody series is.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix it.
Oh, speaking of Marvel series and long, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had its 100th episode this weekend.
I don't care.
Look, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a good show.
I don't care.
It's a very good show.
I don't
care. Chloe Bennett, who plays Daisy Johnson, has become really good. Agent May is still in it. Phil Coulson is great. It's a good show. And look, watch it. It's good.
I don't care.
Ben, you're a bad egg.
No, I'm really not. But I just don't care. Who cares?
one of the slight drawbacks of Jessica Jones season 2 is Patsy Walker's character development. She becomes a kind of... Remember in Daredevil season 1 how Karen Page's investigation and her moving from legal secretary to journalist was in a lot of ways a driver behind the plot?
Yeah.
And she was kind of determined. Patsy Walker is like a wannabe Karen Page.
Oh.
She's kind of whinier, kind of a bit more on top. But as it turns out, when you get further into the series, it's all on purpose. I thought it was just they'd written the character poorly. I thought they'd made her into a bit of a naggy shrew.
Okay.
But as it turns out, that's not really what's going on. It's actually a very... There's actually some motivation behind it.
Okay.
And the motivation makes sense for the character as well.
But it's difficult to get into it before you see the motivation.
Yeah, I suppose in a way, me not liking her in the first couple of episodes is good writing.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah, if that's what they intend, then it is good writing. It's the same thing, I guess, going back to David Tennant, it's the same thing of, like, there's nothing good about that character. Like, he's written to be this repulsive creature, and you actually can't get behind him. Because I find it really difficult with him, because I'm a Doctor Who... Well, I was a Doctor Who fan. I'm not a Doctor Who fan anymore. But
because the new Doctor Who's a lady, Ben. That's incredibly sexist.
That's not the reason that I'm not a Doctor Who fan anymore. I'm not a Doctor Who fan anymore because Russell T Davies gave up the writing and he gave it over to Stephen Moffat, who loves jerking twists and not following the rules he's built in his own universe. And I disagree with Stephen Moffat as a writer. I think
you disagree with his existence as a writer?
Yeah, I think he should be one. I think that the Lady Doctor is actually kind of cool. It's a nice change of pace.
And she was in one of the better episodes of Black Mirror as well.
Yes, she was, and she's awfully pretty, which always helps. Not necessary, but helps. Anyway,
Ben, you sound like a 50s ad executive.
I am.
You don't have to be pretty to work here, but it does help.
Oh God! All right, that's fair enough. So, if you or anyone else objects to me on the podcast, podcast wanker can fuck off. He's not allowed to object. But if anyone else objects, please leave us a comment down below. Be nice. But yeah, I remember him as the 10th Doctor, and he was this amazing kind of, wide-eyed, really dynamic.
He was the Doctor. He was Doctor Who as a millennial.
Yeah,
get out of here, millennials.
He was a decent Doctor, and then seeing him as the Purple Man, my God, such a shift. He was great.
Ben, apparently, I'm a millennial.
How are you a millennial?
Because it's been reclassified apparently, and now like 24 to 36 is a millennial.
You can't just reclassify it out of nowhere.
Well, you can, because who's responsible for classifying it?
But does that not render every single lecture and buzzword and clickbaity article on how millennials are shit useless? Does that not change all that all of a sudden? Does that not
Ben,
mean
I'm
that
a bit useless.
No, but does that mean that all the bollock pseudoscience that's gone into this entire industry so that people can sell TED Talks and fucking crap like that is useless? Oh, no, wait, it was always useless. Never mind. Because classifying people by generation is fucking thick.
Jesus, tell us how you feel, Ben.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about that, actually. I really hate that fucking term. I think it's really stupid.
What a millennial thing to say.
Hang on, given our career, Michael, outside of podcasting, I do not think it's a very stupid thing.
Male modelling?
Yeah, to be fair. If I hear one more person say that I can't be an outdoor male model just because I'm a millennial, smacks. Apparently I have to wear hoodies and do things on telephones all the time. Telephones, They're not telephones, they're mobile phones. They're smartphones. My God, I'm so old.
Ben, let's move on, will we?
Yeah,
let's get you off this little rant here and let's move on.
Let's calm me down. Okay.
What are we talking about, Ben?
I don't know. What's next?
Go on.
Go on. No, you're miles ahead of me.
While I was watching Jessica Jones and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
I also have just I've refurbished the tiny room, Ben.
Yay, tiny room.
And since I was kind of on the topic of like TV, I dug out my old Buffy the Vampire Slayer box sets and watched some of them.
Very
Ben,
good.
Are you too old or too young to remember Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I'm right in the middle of Buffy the Vampire Slayers. I am the age where my mother, when she caught me watching it, said, "That's too violent, turn that off." That's my age.
That's amazing.
So that's my age. It was that's too violent, turn that off. So that's kind of my engagement with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I quite enjoyed watching Buffy, because I wasn't allowed to.
Very good.
So that's my age. That should give you a rough idea of kind of how I engage with it. I think it was really interesting. I never really connected with it. I had a very hard time as a young fella connecting with stuff that was American.
Connecting
with stuff that was very American.
You had a hard time as a young fella.
No, I had a fairly decent time as a young fella. I'm a first world kid.
You had a hard time connecting with things that are American.
Super American.
How times have changed.
No, now I adore things that are American. Well, pop culture wise, I don't really adore other things that are American.
Yeah,
but still,
bloody Trump.
Bloody Trump.
Trump.
Get out of here, yeah, bad orange egg. So what I meant to say there was, it was very alien to me as a concept. The high school thing, those dynamics and stuff. And it's only as I got older I realised how kind of clever that show could be. Anyway, how was revisiting Buffy the Vampire Slayer for you?
Weird, Ben.
Oh.
Weird.
Weird good or weird bad?
No, weird.
Like weird
it's,
bread and butter sex stuff? Or weird...
No, not that weird. Like it didn't make me think of you. The strange thing about Buffy is... Alright, this is let
Sorry.
Buffy's magic.
That was very well timed. Anyway, go on.
The strange thing about Buffy is it's so influential.
Yes.
And Buffy as a character was so important in pop culture that it's very hard to watch it bloody nearly 20 years later and still like it. It is still undeniably good, but everything about it became the way TV was after it was on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, as in it shifted the ground, and at the time it was like, whoa! But now because everybody's copied it, it's like, oh.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at it, like instead of just a lead character loner, you had this high school girl and her group of friends, but all of the friends were interesting and developed and important characters as well. And I know people complain about Joss Whedon banter these days.
The really snappy kind of...
The snappy back and forth.
Yeah.
Every show tries to do it now. I mean, when Buffy came out, that was so new and fresh and original. But then every show started doing it. And it's very hard to watch it now because, in fact, compared with modern shows, it's quite basic. It's like listening to rap from the 80s. I said a hip, a hop, a hippity, the hippity hop, hop, and don't stop.
That was terrible.
That's how it goes. That's how Gangster's Paradise goes.
Good
Rapper's
God.
Paradise? Rapper's Delight? Gangster's Delight? I can't remember what that song's called.
Gangster's Delight.
Gangster's Delight. Gangster's Paradise is as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's none left. Good luck syncing that up, Ben.
We're doomed. Anyway.
What was I saying? Then also, like Buffy, it's set up. The reason Jessica Jones made me think of Buffy was that Buffy set up that whole generation of TV shows which started to be about young women discovering strange or supernatural or just unusual abilities.
Yeah.
And then having to deal with them and live their normal life. And, I mean, there's almost direct... There are direct Buffy spin-offs like Faith and Angel. But even things like... Have you ever seen Veronica Mars?
I know exactly what it is. It's Kirsten... What's her name?
Bell.
Yeah, Kristen Bell. Turns out it's a shame that you didn't tell me this ahead of time, or I would have gotten my mother to join in the conversation. She is a massive Veronica Mars fan.
My lady friend was a huge Buffy fan. We should have got her on the show this week, actually, or someone. Anyway, but she was a huge Buffy fan, and she said, because me and my lady friend Ben are about the same age that Buffy was supposed to be. So when Buffy went to college, that's when I started college. When Buffy finished high school, that's when I finished secondary school.
Okay.
So I think the character is actually a year older than me if she was real. But we got it slightly delayed here in Ireland.
Yeah, fair enough.
So she's a tiny bit older than us. So I was talking to my lady friend about Buffy because we watch it together, Ben.
Yeah.
And she said that when she was that age watching it, she'd never seen like a character outside of a soap or something like that. She doesn't watch soaps, but she had never seen a character who was so like her. Not necessarily. Not saying that. Not saying that. She has superpowers. I'm like, if the government are listening,
that would be really cool.
If the government are listening, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that that's what she said, but she said that it was the first time to see like a strong character, a strong female lead who was her age and living with a similar life to her on TV. And then it spawned a whole bloody generation of them. Veronica Mars is basically Buffy if instead of superpowers and vampires, she had detective skills and noir murders.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I can
get
behind that. Yeah. They copied the model.
Not necessarily they copied the model, but it changed the face of TV.
Yeah, okay.
We wouldn't have a Jessica Jones today, even though Jessica Jones isn't like Buffy, because Buffy wasn't a hard-drinking woman in her 30s. But look, in a lot of ways, you could say that if Buffy had grown up without superpowers, she might have turned out to be Jessica Jones.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Possibly.
I could see that. I could probably... Yeah, that's fair.
Ben, you watch it.
She's a real interesting character, but like I said, they don't... It was hard for me to engage with it. Maybe, first of all, because I'm not... or I was never a teenage girl. I'm not. Never was.
Although, you do get very excited when you hear news about... I don't know who teenage girls like anymore. It's probably not Bieber.
It's not Bieber. Bieber's long gone, kid.
Who is it, Ben? Who the teenage girls like?
I think there's one of the lads from One Direction they're still a bit into.
Zayn.
Is there a Zayn knocking around?
Harry.
There's a Malik. There's a
No, Zayn is Malik, isn't he? I think it's Zayn Malik.
Oh, it's the same. Damn. This is betraying a lot of your listening habits to the listeners. No, but like I said,
I'm actually very good, Ben, at remembering the names of boy band members. I don't know why. I think it's Zayn, Harry, Liam. Zayn, Harry, Liam. The other one,
Niall,
the Irish one.
Niall's the Irish one. Yeah.
And then the other one.
I think the other one is kind of a failure, though. I think the other one's he's kind of
for being
went off the rails. Anyway, yeah. Like I said, it was hard for me to engage, but it's hard to, because she was really unflinching. Like I think Buffy was really unflinching in her, when she took on demons and stuff. That was the thing that always kind of stuck with me after watching that show. She's never really scared or helpless. She always kind of faces into it quite stoically.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a lot of tragedy. Like she hits a lot of those walls. But funnily enough, I think it was the supporting cast that made her kind of a more rounded out character, because she's quite unflinching as she goes through the series.
Well, I mean, with the exception of, and this almost sounds like we planned it, but it doesn't. But we didn't. The exception of the famous episode where she loses her mother.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, that's it. She has a difficult relationship with her mother in the series, though, doesn't she? Up until there's like a reconciliation or something, isn't there?
There is a bit of a reconciliation, and there's a difficult relationship, but it's only a difficult relationship in a mother-teenager sort of way. Like her mother is a very positive character in the show generally.
Okay.
I mean, and there's episodes where her mother falls in love with a robot and stuff, and she doesn't believe Buffy. I think once they get past the whole having to keep everything secret from her mother, it helps the character a lot.
Yeah, that usually does it.
Here's a question for you though, Ben, because you love a theme.
I love an elf theme.
that episode of Buffy the Body where she comes home and finds her mother dead, and then the whole episode is about supernaturally trying to revive her mother in various ways.
Yes.
And then at the end we see that was all just in her head, and in fact her mother's dead.
That's pretty interesting. I remember that.
Is that, Ben, and you might have to explain what this term means first, but is that a woman in a refrigerator?
Oh, okay. So this is one of my favorite things, Michael. So woman in a refrigerator is actually
bread and butter.
Bread, yeah, I love bread and butter. But yeah, a woman in a refrigerator is a trope in comic books. It started it was first kind of catalogued as a result of comic books by Kelly Sue DeConnick, actually.
Really?
Oh no, it's not Kelly Sue DeConnick. It's Gail Simone.
Ah, good old Gail.
It's Gail Simone, or it's either Gail Simone or Kelly Sue DeConnick. I can't remember which one, but I think it's Gail Simone.
Is Gail Simone related to Nina Simone?
She's not. Definitively not, unfortunately. But she started a blog where she kept track of the female characters that existed in comic books that only served to further the purpose by being a victim of violence or murdered.
Ben, hold on a second. Was this before Gail Simone became a well-known writer herself?
She was a writer at the time. She did not write exclusively for comics at the time, and it was before she achieved any kind of fame as a comic book writer.
That's interesting.
So she kind of kept the blog in the 90s. The blog has since stopped, but it still exists. You can still go see the blog. And the reason it's called Women in Fridges is there's a very famous episode, or there's a very famous issue of Green Lantern where...
Greg Lantern, I believe.
Greg Lantern, where Greg comes home and he finds his girlfriend for, I think she might have been his girlfriend for maybe 3 or 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And she was introduced at the start of the arc, and he finds her chopped up in the freezer.
But Ben, that's ridiculous. Why would you introduce that character just to chop her up in a shocking reveal?
And there's the crux of Women in Fridges. It's a ridiculous trope that perpetrates violence towards women for no purpose other than furthering a plot.
And does the plot have to be about men?
Usually men are the key figures, yes. It doesn't have to be. Obviously that exists, which is why it's so interesting that you bring it up with regards to Buffy. Is it fair to murder her mother for the sake of dramatic effect? Is there a point in murdering her mother just to make people go... I think in terms of Buffy, because her mother is such a long-standing character, and because Joss Whedon is such a prick when it comes to beloved characters, it probably falls outside the realm of a woman in a fridge, because he just loves to fuck with people's loved characters. He just has a weird fetish. Like, killing beloved characters is to Joss Whedon what bread and butter is to me.
Very good.
It's
a throwback to earlier in the podcast.
It's a real, like, he loves to murder an character. So I think he might have slipped the news because she's such a long established character, and because she's recurred so often and had her own trials and tribulations and arcs. I think it might just be one of those unfortunate things where someone dies. Which happens sometimes. But
it does happen. And sometimes it does happen, and it's completely meaningless, and it doesn't serve any plot. In fact, that's usually how death works in real life.
Yeah, I think in the Buffy one, I think in the Buffy thing, it gave her kind of a darker arc for a while. She was able to be a bit angrier.
What about Jenny Calendar?
You got to help me out there.
Jenny Calendar was the high school computer teacher, and she started going out with Mr. Giles.
Ah, yes. She is definitively a woman in a fridge.
Because then she got killed by Angel.
Yeah, she is a woman in a fridge. She's there to cause a little bit of tension between two male characters, in this case Giles and Angel, and it's there to kind of as a shocking kind of thing, and it gives the male character a little bit of tragedy in his backstory, and it makes it okay for him to do something a little bit out of character. For example, get very violent, or not be as well thought out or as slow thinking. So you kind of turn on the impulse in the man to just be a bit more of a dickhead. So I think that's a very good example of a Mary Sue. I think the more famous example in very recent times is, do you see Jurassic World?
Yep.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard's cardboard woman character, that really irritating, non-emotional character that she plays, who runs the park.
The lady who runs around in high heels and doesn't break her ankle.
Yeah, her.
I don't remember the character's name. Bryce Dallas Howard.
she has an assistant in Jurassic World.
Right.
And her assistant is a lovely, lovely person.
The English lady, the English babysitter.
Who's kind of just kicked around by Bryce Dallas Howard. And she tries to look after the kids, and she tries to save people in the big...
Even though it's not her job.
Even though it's not her job, in the big Jurassic Pandemonium scene. And she dies in such a violent, pointless way.
And I think we were supposed to find it funny.
I think it's supposed to be one of those jump cut things where you're like, but it's actually quite horrific. She's eaten by... Or she's picked up by and torn apart by... I don't know the name of the dinosaur. One of the flying dinosaurs.
I think they were some sort of pterosaurs. Perhaps a pterodactyl.
I see. I'm very careful around biologists when I have to name things because I don't get them right. So, she's picked up by a flying dinosaur, which is then subsequently
Actually,
eaten.
Ben, pterosaurs aren't dinosaurs.
Okay. I knew that was coming. I always get my hopes up. I always think, no, wait, I'm having a little moment.
A pterodactyl,
I'm having a
famously,
moment.
Famously, Ben, a pterodactyl is less closely related to a T-Rex than a chicken is. Welcome to Ben's Moments.
Anyway. Don't let him see you cry.
Hint of emotion in the voice there.
Anyway. So she's then picked up by a flying dinosaur. Flying reptile thing.
There you go.
Which is then eaten by a swimming reptile thing. And it's really unfair because she's nothing but a good character and she just gets destroyed for some reason. And I think the most fucked up thing about that scene is exactly what you said. I think we were supposed to find it funny.
Yeah, because she deserved to die because she was a poor babysitter, even though that wasn't her job.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a comeuppance thing where you're like, ha! And it's just too gruesome for that to be okay. Like, the sound cuts out before she dies. Like, it's a really jarring scene, the whole thing. It's kind of messed up. That is the definition of a woman in a fridge.
But, Ben, I would say... Now, I'm going to argue with you here. Is it, though? Because it's not like... her death served the development of anyone else's plot. It was just a gruesome shock that was misjudged.
That falls under an equal footing with the woman in the fridge. So women in the fridge don't always propel the plot. That's not what they do. Occasionally, a woman in the fridge incident or a use of the woman in the fridge trope is pointless. There's no need for that woman to suffer. And I think the reason that they exist is, in comic books certainly, it's to sell the kind of the edge factor. They're like, ooh, look how grim and gritty we are. I think
we're so edgy. Yeah, we're edgelords.
A really famous proponent of that is Frank Miller.
Frank Miller, that's who I meant.
He loves an butchering of women. There's a couple of examples of that. Sin City has numerous examples of it, and The Dark Knight Returns has it with Catwoman. These things are a dime a dozen in the L world of Frank Miller. And I think in comic books they serve to be like, we're not like kids things, we're edgy.
Look at all these women who are going to die.
And then I think in things like Jurassic World, it's like, look how dangerous this moment is.
But wasn't... Don't get me wrong here, I really disliked that scene in Jurassic World. But wasn't it basically the equivalent of the man being eaten on the toilet in the first Jurassic Park?
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
That's what I thought it was. I thought it was supposed to be...
a throwback.
A throwback, a bit of a unexpectedly violent, gruesome end to someone who was incompetent. But she was much less deserving of it than him.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about
he was a real dickhead.
The toilet scene versus the babysitter scene, the impromptu babysitter scene, is that there's some kind of build to the toilet scene. Whereas the death of the babysitter is completely abrupt. It's quite, like I said, quite jarring.
And then no one cares either.
Yeah, there's no response. Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt have a little snog at the end. No one goes, where's my assistant who's helped me run the park since I opened it? Bryce Dallas Howard is horrible in that film, and I can't believe they're making a sequel. Like, it's just like she should be in jail. She should absolutely be in jail. She fucked that up. Anyway, that is the women in fridges trope, and I think it's quite difficult to track effectively. And I think another reason that maybe the blog wasn't kept going is that it's quite hard to distinguish where and when the murder of a character is justified. And then I think it quite often happens now with male characters as well, where you just have a pointless death to further. It quite often happens with parents, or brothers, or very close friends. We're quite often introduced to a very close friend or a brother who's abruptly snapped apart. But where I would say that changes is that men who die as part of a kind of plot propelling thing are often brought back. So you can see that in the Mummy with Tom Cruise, where his friend dies.
The new girl guy.
Yeah, the new girl guy, exactly. He dies, but he gets to come back and nothing happens. So he's there to cause a bit of guilt and motivation for the character, but it's okay because Tom Cruise becomes a weird mummy god at the end, and he can bring him back.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid. But Ben, speaking of stupid endings, shall we wrap the podcast up for today?
Yay! Stupid endings. Yeah.
Do the end bit, Ben.
So, as you know, we here have a podcast. We put it on YouTube. Give us now a like. Give us now a subscribe. If you want to get in touch with us, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Vero these days. You can get in touch with us right here. If you have any questions or want to know anything about how you can do stuff in the bedroom with bread and butter, just text me directly.
Text
if you want to know anything about
email.
If you want to know anything about pop culture, probably give Mick a shout. And are there any deaths in pop culture that you find particularly irritating or unnecessary? Do let us know down below.
Wash.
Yeah, Wash fucking hurt. That was
real bad.
Oh, God. If this wasn't purely an audio medium, I would have a minute's silence for Wash. But as it's not, that's it for this week. Goodbye.
Bye. Ben, we can have a week's silence.